Hello everyone, glad to have you here. If this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. It helps me bring you more stories like this. Now, get comfortable. It's time to dive into the story. San Francisco has fallen, 30 days into the zombie apocalypse. Now, let's get started. The desert at night is never truly silent. There's always something. The hiss of wind through mesquite, the rattle of a snake, the distant hum of a truck on E19. But that night, as I rolled along the border road south of Naulas, the silence pressed in like a weight. Even the insects had gone quiet. I gripped the wheel of the Border Patrol SUV, headlights cutting a narrow path through the sand and scrub. My shift had started like any other routine patrol, scanning for movement, logging checkpoints, but the radio chatter had been strange all evening. Bursts of static, half-finished transmissions, voices cutting out mid-sentence. Dispatch blamed the towers. I wasn't so sure. The desert stretched endless on both sides, a sea of shadows broken by saguaros standing like sentinels. My partner, Alvarez, rode shotgun, his eyes scanning the darkness. He'd been quiet for miles, jaw tight, fingers drumming against his rifle. "You feel that?" he asked suddenly. I frowned. "Feel what?" He shook his head like the air is wrong, heavy. I wanted to laugh it off, but he was right. The desert felt different, thicker, like it was holding its breath. We reached mile marker 42, where the fence cut across the sand. I slowed, spotlight sweeping the barrier. That's when I saw them. Footprints. They trailed from the Mexican side, pressed deep into the sand, crossing under a section of sagging wire. But what froze me wasn't the direction. It was the pattern. The prints went one way. None came back. Alvarez leaned forward, squinting. "Where the hell did they go?" I killed the engine. The silence that followed was suffocating. We stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, rifles raised. The desert swallowed us whole, the stars burning cold above. I crouched, running my hand over the prints. They were fresh, hours old, maybe less. But the stride was wrong. Too long, too uneven, like whoever made them was dragging their feet. Alvarez muttered. "Drunk maybe." I shook my head. "Or hurt." We followed the trail, moving slow, every sense on edge. The prints led into a wash. The sand damp from a recent storm. The smell hit us first. Rot, thick and sour, carried on the wind. My stomach twisted. Then we heard it. A sound like breathing, ragged and wet. We raised our rifles. Beams cutting through the dark. A figure staggered into the light. Male, mid-30s maybe, clothes torn, skin pale. His eyes caught the beam glowing faintly. His mouth hung open, lips cracked, teeth stained dark. "Sir, Border Patrol," I called out. "Stay where you are." He didn't stop. Didn't even flinch. He just kept coming, dragging one leg, arms twitching. Alvarez hissed. "Something's wrong." The man lurched faster, breaking into a run. His movements were jerky, unnatural, like a puppet on broken strings. "Stop!" I shouted. He didn't. I fired. The shot echoed across the desert, the man jerking as the bullet tore through his chest. He stumbled, but didn't fall. He kept coming. Alvarez fired next. 3-round center mass. The man staggered, blood spraying. But still he ran, eyes locked on us, mouth open in a silent scream. "Jesus Christ," Alvarez muttered. I aimed higher. The shot cracked, the man's head snapping back. He collapsed into the sand, twitching once before going still. Silence returned heavy and suffocating. My hands shook as I lowered the rifle. "What the hell was that?" Alvarez whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. We approached cautiously, beams cutting across the body. His chest was riddled with holes, blood pooling dark in the sand. But his eyes, they were still open, still glowing faintly in the light. Alvarez cursed, stepping back. That's not right. None of this is right. The radio crackled suddenly. Static hissing. A voice broke through, faint and distorted. All units, report, containment breach. Repeat, containment breach. Then silence. Alvarez grabbed the mic. Dispatch, this is Unit 12. Say again. Static. I stared at the body. Bile rising in my throat. Containment breach. The words echoed in my skull. Then the sound came. Low at first, carried on the wind. A moan. Then another. We turned. Beams sweeping the desert. Shadows moved on the ridge. Dozens of them staggering, lurching, eyes glowing in the dark. Alvarez's voice cracked. Oh God, there's more. I raised my rifle, heart hammering. The moans grew louder, the figures closing in, their movements jerky, relentless. The desert was no longer silent. It was alive, and it was coming for us. The desert ridge came alive with movement. Dozens of figures staggered down the slope, their moans echoing across the sand. Alvarez and I backed toward the SUV, rifles raised, beams cutting through the dark, my heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. Get in the truck. I shouted. We scrambled inside, doors slamming, engine roaring to life, headlights swept across the horde, men, women, even children. Their faces pale, eyes glowing faintly in the beams. Their clothes were torn, their skin gray, their mouths open in silent hunger. Alvarez gripped the wheel, knuckles white. What the hell are they? I didn't answer. I didn't know. He flawed the gas, tires spitting gravel as we tore down the dirt road. The infected chased, their movements jerky, but fast, faster than they should have been. They slammed against the SUV, hands clawing at the windows, teeth snapping inches from our faces. I leaned out the window, rifle braced, firing into the swarm. Bullets tore through chests, blood spraying, but they didn't stop. They didn't even flinch. Only headshot dropped them, skulls snapping back, bodies collapsing into the dust. Headshot, I shouted. It's the only way. Alvarez swerved, slamming into a cluster, bodies tumbling beneath the wheels. The SUV jolted, suspension groaning, but the infected kept coming, climbing over the hood, clawing at the windshield. Shoot them. Alvarez roared. I fired point-blank glass spider webbing, blood spraying across the hood. The creature tumbled off, crushed beneath the tires. We sped towards the outpost, headlights bouncing, dust choking the air. The radio crackled, static, hissing. Then a voice broke through, frantic. All units, this is command. Lock down all checkpoints. Do not let them breach the fence. Repeat, do not. The transmission cut out. Alvarez cursed. They know. They damn well know. The outpost appeared ahead. Floodlights blazing. Soldiers on the walls. We barreled through the gate, brakes screeching, SUV skidding to a stop. Soldiers swarmed us, rifles raised, eyes wide. Report. An officer barked. I stumbled out, chest heaving. They're out there. Dozens, maybe more. Bullets don't stop them unless you hit the head. The officer's face went pale. He turned, shouting, orders. Lock it down. Double the barricades. Get the medics ready. Alvarez leaned against the SUV, sweat dripping down his face. We're screwed, he muttered. The floodlights swept the desert, beams catching on the horde approaching the fence. Their moans rose into a chorus, echoing across the sand. Soldiers braced, rifles, machine guns mounted, sandbags stacked high. The first wave hit the fence. They slammed against the chain link, clawing, biting, climbing over each other. Bullets tore through them, bodies collapsing, but more pressed forward, relentless. The fence rattled, posts bending, wires snapping. "Hold the line," the officer roared. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes lighting the night. The infected fell in heaps, blood spraying, but the tide didn't stop. They climbed over the dead, clawing at the wire, their moans deafening. I fired from the wall, rifle braced, sighting down the barrel. One head shot, then another. Each shot a desperate attempt to hold the tide. Casings clattered, smoke filled the air, the stench of blood and gunpowder thick. Then the screaming started. A soldier on the line went down. An infected tearing into his throat. Blood sprayed, his scream cut short. Another soldier fired wildly, panic overtaking training. The line wavered, chaos spreading. "Fall back," someone shouted. The infected surged through a gap, pouring into the compound like flood water. Soldiers screamed, rifles blazing, but the line was broken. Alvarez grabbed my arm, eyes wide. "We have to move." We retreated toward the barracks, boots pounding, rifles blazing. The infected swarmed, their moans rising, their bodies relentless. The compound shook with chaos. The night a storm of screams and gunfire inside the barracks. Soldiers slammed the doors, barricading them with crates. The pounding began instantly, fists slamming, claws raking, teeth snapping. The walls shook, dust raining from the ceiling. The officer's voice was hoarse, desperate. "We hold here. Reinforcements are coming." But I knew the truth. Reinforcements weren't coming. The border was gone, and this was only the beginning. The barracks wire of sweat, gun oil, and fear. Soldiers pressed their backs against the walls, rifles clutched tight, eyes wide. The pounding on the doors never stopped. Fists slamming, claws raking, teeth snapping. Dust rained from the ceiling with every impact. Captain Morales stormed into the room, his voice but steady. "Listen up. Command has issued a full lockdown. No one in, no one out. We hold this outpost until reinforcements arrive." The words rang hollow. Reinforcements. We'd heard that lie before. Still, the soldiers straightened, clinging to the illusion of order. Alvarez leaned close, whispering. "Reinforcements aren't coming. You know that, right?" I didn't answer. My hands shook as I reloaded, magazine clicking into place. The pounding grew louder, the walls trembling. Morales barked orders. "Double the barricades. Secure the perimeter. Medics check every man for bites." The room went still. Everyone knew what that meant. A medic moved down the line, pulling sleeves, checking arms, scanning faces. When he reached Private Ramirez, the silence broke. Ramirez flinched, pulling back his sleeve too late. The bite was there, angry, red, teeth marks deep in the flesh. The room erupted. Soldiers shouted, rifles raised. Ramirez's eyes went wide, tears streaming. "Please, I didn't mean to hide it. I didn't want to die." Morales's jaw clenched. He drew his sidearm, voice steady. "You already did." The shot echoed through the barracks. Deafening. Ramirez collapsed, blood pooling across the floor. The silence that followed was worse than the pounding outside. Alvarez muttered, "Jesus." Morales holstered his weapon, eyes hard. "That's the price of survival. Anyone else hiding something, speak now." No one moved. The pounding grew louder, the infected outside relentless. Their moans rose into a chorus, echoing through the compound. The floodlights flickered, shadows dancing across the walls. Morales turned to me. "You, Reyes, you've been out there. What are we dealing with?" I swallowed hard, throat dry. Headshot only. Nothing else stops them. They don't feel pain. They don't stop. They just keep coming. The room shifted, fear thickening. Soldiers exchanged glances, their confidence cracking. Morales nodded grimly. Then we aim for the head. Every shot counts. Understood? A chorus of shaky voices answered. Yes, sir. The floodlights flickered again, then died. Darkness swallowed the compound. Panic erupted. Soldiers shouted, rifles firing blindly into the night. The infected roared, slamming harder against the walls. Generators down, someone screamed. I fumbled for my flashlight, beam cutting through the dark. The sight froze, my blood. Dozens of infected, maybe hundreds, pressed against the barricades, their pale faces illuminated in the beam. Their eyes glowed, their mouths open in hunger. The barricades groaned, wood splintering, metal bending. The infected clawed through gaps, reaching, snapping. Soldiers fired, muzzle flashes, lighting the chaos. Bodies fell, but more surged forward, climbing over the dead. Hold the line. Morales roared. I fired. Each shot a desperate attempt to hold the tide. Casings clattered. Smoke filled the air. The stench of blood and gunpowder thick. My ears rang. My hands shook. My heart pounded. Then the wall cracked. The infected poured through, flooding the barracks. Soldiers screamed, rifles blazing, but the line was broken. The room dissolved into chaos. Gunfire, screams, blood spraying across the walls. Alvarez grabbed my arm, eyes wide. We can't stay here. We fought our way towards the back, boots slipping on blood, rifles blazing. The infected swarmed, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. We burst into the command room, slamming the door, barricading it with desks. The pounding began instantly, claws raking, teeth snapping. The walls shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Morales staggered in behind us, blood on his uniform, eyes hard. He slammed a map onto the table, voice steady despite the chaos. Command's gone dark. Reinforcements aren't coming. We're on our own. The words hit like a hammer. Alvarez cursed, pacing. Then what the hell do we do? Morales's eyes met mine. We hold as long as we can. And when we can't, he trailed off, jaw clenched. The pounding grew louder, the walls trembling. The infected roared, their moans rising into a deafening chorus. I gripped my rifle tighter, sweat dripping down my face. My mind replayed Ramirez's execution. The radio static, the word containment breach. The border was gone and the lockdown was nothing but a tomb. The night split open with the sound of metal screaming. The chain-link fence that had stood for decades, weathered by storms and reinforced after countless breaches, finally gave way under the relentless weight of the infected. Posts bent, wires snapped, and the barrier that once marked the line between nations collapsed like paper. Hold the line, Captain Morales roared, his voice roar against the chaos. We fired into the swarm, muzzle flashes strobing the desert. The infected surged forward, climbing over their own dead, clawing through gaps in the fence. Their eyes glowed pale in the floodlights, mouths open in silent hunger. The air rire of blood, sweat, and gunpowder. I squeezed the trigger until my rifle clicked empty. My hands shook as I slammed in a fresh magazine, heart hammering around me. Soldiers shouted, screamed, cursed. Some fired wildly, others fell back, panic overtaking training. The infected didn't stop. Bullets tore through them, but they kept coming. Bodies jerking, limbs flailing, driven by something beyond pain. They hit the vehicles we'd parked as barricades slamming against doors, clawing at windows. Tires burst, alarms wailed, and the night became a cacophony of sound. Fall back to the secondary line. Morales shouted. We retreated toward the inner barricade, a makeshift wall of sandbags and concrete blocks. My boots pounded the gravel, lungs burning. Behind us, the fence collapsed entirely, a wave of infected spilling through like flood water. I turned, firing into the mass. One dropped, then another, but for everybody that fell, 3 more surged forward. Their moans rose into a chorus, a sound that clawed at the edges of sanity. An officer beside me screamed as one tackled him, teeth sinking into his throat. Blood sprayed across the sand. I fired, the infected's head snapping back, but the damage was done. The officer gurgled, eyes wide before collapsing. We reached the secondary line, rifles braced against sandbags. Morales barked orders, his voice. Aim for the head. Make every shot count. I steadied my rifle, sighting down the barrel. The infected closed in, their faces twisted, jaws snapping. I fired one after another, each shot a desperate attempt to hold the tide. Casings clattered, smoke filled the air, and still they came. The floodlights flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed the compound. Panic erupted. Soldiers shouted, firing blindly into the night. The infected surged closer, shadows moving in the chaos. Generators down, someone screamed. I fumbled for my flashlight. Beam cutting through the dark. The sight froze my blood. Dozens of infected, maybe hundreds, pouring through the breach, their pale faces illuminated in the beam. They moved like a single organism, relentless, unstoppable. Fall back inside. Morales shouted. We retreated toward the outpost building. Boots pounding, rifles blazing. The infected slammed against the walls, clawing at doors, pounding on windows. The concrete shook under the assault. Inside, the air was thick with fear. Soldiers reloaded, hands trembling. Some prayed under their breath. Others stared blankly, shock setting in. Morales paced, jaw clenched, eyes hard. This is our line, he said, voice steady despite the chaos. We hold here or we die. The pounding grew louder, walls vibrating. Dust rained from the ceiling. The infected were breaking through. I gripped my rifle tighter, sweat dripping down my face. My mind replayed the radio orders. Hold the line. Reinforcements en route. Lies. Reinforcements weren't coming. We were alone. The first window shattered, glass spraying across the room. An infected lunged through, teeth snapping, gunfire erupted, the creature dropping in a spray of blood, but more followed, pouring through the breach. Screams filled the outpost. Soldiers fought hand to hand, rifles swinging like clubs, knives flashing. The infected clawed, bit, tore. Blood slit the floor, bodies fell, and the line crumbled. I fired until my rifle clicked empty, then drew my sidearm. My hands shook, ears ringing, vision blurred by smoke and sweat. The infected were everywhere, shadows in the dark, teeth flashing. Morales roared, swinging his rifle like a bat, smashing skulls. Don't give them an inch. But we were already losing ground. I stumbled back, breath ragged, heart pounding. The infected pressed closer, their moans rising, drowning out everything else. The walls shook, the ceiling cracked, and the outpost became a tomb. For a moment, time slowed. I saw the faces of my fellow soldiers, eyes wide with terror, mouths open in screams. I saw the infected, relentless, unstoppable, pouring through every breach. And I knew the border was gone. The line we'd sworn to hold had fallen. The fence was breached. And nothing would stop what was coming next. The compound was gone. The fence had collapsed. The secondary line shattered. And the outpost itself was drowning in screams. I stumbled through the smoke and blood. Rifle clutched tight, lungs burning with every breath. Morales's voice still echoed in my ears. But when I turned back, I saw nothing but shadows and the pale faces of the infected swarming over the barricades. Fall back, someone shouted. It might have been me. It might have been anyone. The words were swallowed by the chaos. I sprinted toward the motor pool, boots slipping on blood-slick gravel. A handful of survivors were already there, shoving themselves into trucks, engines roaring to life. I dove into the nearest vehicle, slamming the door as hands clawed at the windows. The driver flawed the gas, tires screaming as we tore through the gate. The desert opened before us, headlights cutting through dust and darkness. Behind the compound burned, floodlights shattered, gunfire fading into silence. My chest tightened. That place had been our line, our anchor. Now it was just another graveyard. The radio crackled, voices overlapping in panic. Sector 12 is gone. We need reinforcements. They're everywhere. Then static. The driver, Alvarez, gritted his teeth. Nearest fullback is Outpost Sierra, 20 miles north if it's still standing. I nodded, though my throat was dry. Outpost Sierra was little more than a desert checkpoint, a squat building with a few towers, and a fuel depot. It wasn't built to withstand an army, but it was all we had. The truck jolted over rough terrain, suspension groaning. In the back, 2 officers clutched rifles, eyes wide, faces pale. One of them, Jenkins, whispered a prayer under his breath. The other just stared out the window, silent tears streaking his face. We drove in silence, the desert pressing in on all sides. Every shadow looked like movement, every gust of wind like a whisper of pursuit. My hands trembled as I reloaded, magazine clicking into place. Then the moans began. At first, faint, carried on the wind. Then louder, closer. I twisted in my seat, heart hammering. Shapes emerged from the darkness, running alongside the truck, pale faces catching the headlights. Dozens of them sprinting, relentless. Floor it, I shouted. Alvarez slammed the pedal, engines screaming. The truck fishtailed, dust rising in a choking cloud. The infected kept pace, their bodies jerking unnaturally, feet pounding the earth. One leapt, slamming against the side, claws raking the door. The metal groaned, glass spider webbing. I raised my rifle, firing through the cracked window. The creature's head snapped back, body tumbling beneath the wheels. The truck jolted, bouncing over the corpse. Keep going. Alvarez roared. We tore through the desert, headlights bouncing, the infected fading into the dust. My chest heaved, sweat dripping down my face, the moans lingered in my ears long after they were gone. Minutes stretched into hours. Finally, floodlights appeared on the horizon, faint but steady. Outpost Sierra. Relief washed over me, but it was thin, fragile. We rolled through the gates, tires crunching on gravel. Guards waved us in, rifles raised, eyes wide. The gates slammed shut behind us, chains rattling. Inside the outpost was chaos. Trucks lined the yard, soldiers shouting, radios buzzing with static. The air smelled of fuel and fear. Captain Ruiz strode forward, face grim. Report. Alvarez spoke first. Sector 12 is gone. The compound fell. Survivors scattered. Ruiz's jaw tightened. His eyes shifted to me. How many? I swallowed. Dozens, maybe hundreds. They breached the fence. They don't stop. Headshots only. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some cursed, others whispered prayers. Ruiz raised his voice. Then we hold here. Reinforcements are coming. The words rang hollow. I'd heard them before. Inside the barracks, the survivors slumped against walls. Exhaustion etched into every face. Jenkins sat with his head in his hands, whispering the same prayer over and over. Another officer, Martinez, stared at his arm, sleeve rolled up to reveal a bite. His eyes darted nervously, sweat pouring down his face. I froze. When? He flinched. "It's nothing, just a scratch." The room went silent. Everyone knew. Ramirez's face flashed in my mind the way he'd begged, the way Morales had ended it. Martinez's voice cracked. "Please, don't tell them. I can fight. I can." The words dissolved into sobs. I turned away, stomach twisting. The outpost was already a coffin. We just hadn't nailed the lid shut yet. Outside, the wind howled across the desert. The floodlights flickered, and in the distance, faint but growing, came the sound of moans. They were coming, and this time there would be no retreat. Dawn bled across the desert, painting the sky in streaks of red and gold. Outpost Sierra buzzed with frantic energy. Soldiers shouting, engines roaring, civilians herded into trucks. The air roar of diesel and fear. Captain Ruiz stood on a Humvee, barking orders, his voice, but commanding. "This is it. Last convoy north. We move in 10 minutes." The words rippled through the yard like a shockwave. Last convoy. No more reinforcements. No more fallback. This was our only chance. Alvarez leaned against a truck, crowbar in hand, eyes bloodshot. "Last convoy," he muttered. "Sounds like last rites." I checked my rifle. Magazine clicking into place. My hands shook, but I forced them steady. Better than waiting here to die. Jenkins stumbled past, clutching his prayer beads, whispering under his breath. Martinez followed, sleeve rolled down tight over his arm. I caught the way he winced, the way his hand trembled. The bite was spreading. He was hiding it just like Ramirez had. I opened my mouth to say something, then shut it. There wasn't time. Engines roared to life, dust rising in choking clouds. The convoy rolled out, Humvees in front, trucks in the middle, armored carriers bringing up the rear. We were a moving fortress. Steel and firepower cutting through the desert. For a while, the road was clear. The desert stretched endless. Saguaros standing like sentinels, the sun climbing higher. The radio crackled with static, voices overlapping. "Convoy Alpha, report. Sector 9 is gone. They're in Phoenix." Then silence. Alvarez muttered. "Nationwide. It's everywhere." I didn't answer. My throat was dry, my chest tight. Then the moans began. At first faint, carried on the wind, then louder, closer. Shadows moved on the ridges, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Pale faces, eyes glowing, mouths open in hunger. "Contact!" A soldier shouted. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes, lighting the desert. The infected poured down the slope, sprinting, clawing, relentless. They slammed against the convoy, climbing onto trucks, clawing at doors. I fired from the back of the truck, bullets tearing through skulls, bodies tumbled, blood spraying, but more surged forward. The convoy jolted, tires screaming, engines roaring. "Keep moving," Ruiz shouted. The Humvee in front swerved, slamming into a cluster, bodies flew, bones snapping. But the infected kept coming, climbing over the wreckage, clawing at the windows. A truck in the middle, jack-knifed, tires blown, engines smoking. The convoy ground to a halt. Chaos erupting. Soldiers shouted. Civilians screamed. The infected swarmed. "Get it moving," Ruiz roared. But it was too late. The horde was on us. They poured into the convoy, clawing at doors, dragging soldiers from trucks. Gunfire stuttered. Screams filled the air. The desert became a storm of blood and dust. I fired until my rifle clicked empty, then drew my sidearm. My hands shook, sweat stinging my eyes. An infected lunged, teeth snapping inches from my face. I fired its skull exploding, blood spraying across the truck. Alvarez swung his crowbar, skulls cracking, blood spraying. Jenkins screamed, dragged from the truck, his prayer cut short. Martinez fired wildly, eyes glassy, sweat pouring down his face. The convoy dissolved into chaos. Trucks burned. Soldiers fell. The infected swarmed. Ruiz's voice roared over the den. Fall back. Break through. Alvarez grabbed my arm, eyes wide. We have to move. We dove from the truck, boots pounding, rifles blazing. The infected swarmed, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. We fought through them, every step a battle, every breath a prayer. The desert opened before us, endless and merciless. Behind the convoy burned, smoke rising into the sky. The screams faded, replaced by the moans of the infected feasting. We ran until our lungs burned, until our legs gave out. We collapsed in the sand, chest heaving, hearts pounding. Alvarez spat blood, crowbar slick in his hand. Convoy's gone. I nodded, throat tight. So are we. The desert stretched endless, the sun climbing higher. The heat pressing down. The convoy was gone. The outpost was gone. The border was gone. And we were alone. The desert swallowed us whole. After the convoy collapsed, after the screams faded into the dust, Alvarez and I were left with nothing but the clothes on our backs, the weapons in our hands, and the endless Arizona wasteland stretching in every direction. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning the sand into fire beneath our boots. Every breath tasted of dust and smoke. We walked in silence, too exhausted to speak. My throat was raw, my lips cracked, my body screaming for water. Alvarez limped beside me, crowbar dragging in the dirt. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, but he kept moving. Stopping wasn't an option. Hours passed. The desert stretched endless, broken only by the occasional saguaro or rusted fence post. The silence pressed in, broken only by the crunch of our boots and the distant cry of a hawk. My mind replayed the convoy, the screams, the fire, the way Jenkins had been dragged into the swarm. His prayers still echoed in my ears. By late afternoon, we stumbled upon the remains of a camp. Tents shredded, fires long dead, belongings scattered across the sand. A migrant camp abandoned in panic. The smell hit us first. Rot thick and sour carried on the wind. Alvarez gagged, pulling his shirt over his face. God! We moved cautiously, rifles raised. Bodies lay sprawled across the ground, their faces pale, eyes clouded. Some were half buried in sand, others slumped against tents. Families? Children? My stomach twisted. Maybe supplies, Alvarez muttered. We searched quickly, hands trembling. A few cans of food, a half-empty jug of water, a box of matches. Not much, but enough to keep us moving. I stuffed them into my pack, forcing myself not to look at the faces around us. Then one of the bodies twitched. I froze, heart hammering. The corpse's hand clawed at the sand, fingers curling. Its eyes snapped open, glowing faintly in the fading light. Its mouth opened in a wet moan. Contact! I shouted. The camp erupted. Bodies stirred, rising from the sand, staggering to their feet. Dozens of them, their movements jerky, their moans rising into a chorus. Alvarez swung his crowbar, skull cracking, blood spraying. I fired bullets tearing through heads, bodies collapsing. But more kept coming, crawling from tents, clawing out of shallow graves. Fall back, I roared. We retreated through the camp, boots slipping on blood, rifles blazing. The infected swarmed, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. They clawed at tents, tore through canvas, stumbled over each other in their hunger. One lunged at me, teeth snapping inches from my face. I fired, its skull exploding, blood spraying across my uniform. Another grabbed Alvarez, dragging him down. He roared, swinging his crowbar, skulls cracking, bodies tumbling. We fought through them. Every step a battle, every breath a prayer. The camp dissolved into chaos. Gunfire, screams, blood spraying across the sand. Finally, we broke free, stumbling into the open desert. The infected followed. Their moans echoing, but we kept moving, boots pounding, lungs burning. By dusk, the camp was a smoldering ruin behind us, the infected still swarming. We collapsed in the sand, chests heaving, hearts pounding. Alvarez spat blood, crowbar slick in his hand. We can't keep this up. I nodded, throat tight. We don't have a choice. The desert stretched endless, the sky burning red with sunset. Shadows lengthened, the air cooling, but the silence was broken by the faint sound of moans carried on the wind. Then I saw it. Faint lights flickering on the horizon. A cluster of buildings half hidden by the dunes. A town. Alvarez followed my gaze, eyes narrowing. Ghost town. Hope flickered thin and fragile. Shelter, supplies, maybe even survivors. I forced myself to my feet, legs trembling. We head there. It's our only chance. We staggered towards the lights. Every step a battle against exhaustion. The desert pressed in. The moans growing louder behind us. The town loomed closer, its buildings dark and silent, windows shattered, doors hanging open. The lights flickered weakly, powered by some dying generator. Alvarez muttered, "Doesn't feel right." He was right. The town was too quiet, too still. Meals left on tables, cars parked with doors open, belongings scattered in the street. It looked like everyone had vanished in an instant. My chest tightened. Stay sharp. We moved cautiously, rifles raised, boots crunching on broken glass. The silence pressed in, suffocating. Every shadow looked like movement, every gust of wind like a whisper. Then the moan came, low, guttural, rising from the darkness. Figures stirred in the buildings, pale faces turning toward us. One by one, they emerged. Stumbling from doorways, crawling from alleys, clawing their way through shattered windows. Dozens of them, maybe more. Alvarez's voice cracked. We walked into a trap. The ghost town was alive, and it was waiting for us. The town looked frozen in time. Street lights flickered weakly, powered by some dying generator casting long shadows across cracked pavement. Cars sat abandoned in the middle of the road. Doors hanging open, headlights still faintly glowing. Meals were left half-eaten on diner tables, clotheslines sagged with laundry that would never be claimed. It was as if everyone had vanished in the same instant. Alvarez and I moved cautiously, rifles raised, boots crunching on broken glass. The silence pressed in, suffocating. Every shadow looked like movement. Every gust of wind like a whisper. "This place is wrong," Alvarez muttered, voice low. He was right. The air was heavy, thick with the stench of rot. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself forward. Shelter meant survival, even if it came wrapped in dread. We reached the sheriff's office. Its window shattered, door hanging open. Inside the air was stale, thick with dust. Papers littered the floor, radios long dead. A revolver lay on the desk, cylinder empty. The sheriff hadn't made it. Alvarez kicked a chair aside, muttering, "No survivors, just ghosts." Then the sound came. Low, guttural, rising from the darkness. A moan. We froze. Rifles raised. Shadows shifted in the buildings across the street. Figures stirred. Pale faces turning toward us. One by one, they emerged. Stumbling from doorways, crawling from alleys, clawing their way through shattered windows. Dozens of them, maybe more. Alvarez's voice cracked. We walked into a trap. The infected poured into the street, their moans rising into a chorus. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, but fast. They sprinted toward us, eyes glowing faintly in the flickering light. "Fall back!" I shouted. We retreated into the sheriff's office, slamming the door, shoving desks and chairs against it. The pounding began instantly, fists slamming, claws raking, teeth snapping. The walls shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Alvarez braced the barricade, crowbar in hand. "We're not getting out of here." I scanned the room, heart hammering. A staircase led upward. Roof now. We scrambled up, boots pounding on wooden steps. The roof creaked under our weight, shingles loose, beams sagging. From up there, the view was worse. The entire town was alive. Infected poured from every building, flooding the streets, their moans echoing into the night. Alvarez cursed, swinging his crowbar at one that clawed its way up the side. Skull cracked, body tumbling into the street below. I fired, bullets tearing through heads, bodies collapsing, but more kept coming. The roof shook under the assault, wood splintering, nails popping, the infected clawed at the walls, climbing, relentless. "We can't hold this," Alvarez roared. He was right. The town was a death trap. I scanned the horizon, desperate. Then I saw it. A water tower on the edge of town, its ladder still intact. High ground. A chance. "There," I shouted. We leapt from the roof, landing hard on the hood of a rusted truck. Pain shot through my legs, but I forced myself up, firing into the swarm. Alvarez swung his crowbar, skulls cracking, blood spraying. We fought through the streets. Every step a battle, every breath a prayer. The infected swarmed, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. They clawed at doors, slammed against windows, sprinted along rooftops. The town itself seemed to close in. Every alley a trap, every shadow a threat. We reached the water tower, boots pounding on the ladder. I climbed first, rifles slung, hands trembling. Alvarez followed, crowbar clanging against the rungs. The infected swarmed below, clawing at the ladder, their moans rising into a deafening chorus. We reached the top, collapsing onto the platform. The town stretched below, a sea of pale faces and glowing eyes. The infected clawed at the ladder, climbing relentless. Alvarez leaned against the railing, chest heaving. "We're screwed." I reloaded, hands shaking, sweat dripping down my face. Not yet. We fired down into the swarm. Bullets tearing through skulls, bodies tumbling. The ladder shook under the weight of the infected climbing. The platform groaned, wood splintering. The town burned with flickering light. The generator sputtering, shadows dancing across the streets, the infected roared, their moans echoing into the night. And on that water tower, surrounded by death, I realized the truth. The ghost town wasn't abandoned. It had been waiting. The water tower had bought us time, but not safety. By dawn, the infected still swarmed below, clawing at the ladder, their moans echoing across the ghost town. The generator sputtered and died, plunging the streets into silence. That silence was worse than the noise. It meant they were listening, waiting. Alvarez leaned against the railing, crowbar slick with blood, eyes hollow. "We can't stay up here forever." He was right. Supplies were gone, ammo low, and the tower groaned under the weight of the infected climbing. We needed a way out. That's when I saw it. On the far edge of town, a tall radio tower rising above the desert, its red light still blinking faintly against the morning sky. "Look," I said, pointing. "If it's still powered, we can broadcast. Call for help." Alvarez squinted, then shook his head. "Or call more of them." I didn't care. We had to try. We climbed down the far side of the water tower, dropping into an alley. The infected swarmed the other side, giving us a narrow window. We sprinted through the streets, boots pounding, rifles raised. Shadows moved in every doorway, every window. The town was alive with them. We fought our way through. Every corner, a battle. Alvarez swung his crowbar, skulls cracking, blood spraying. I fired, bullets tearing through heads, bodies collapsing, the moans rose into a chorus echoing through the streets. Finally, we reached the base of the radio tower. The fence was bent, gate hanging open. Inside the building was dark, windows shattered, doors broken, the air wire of dust and rot. We forced our way in, rifles raised. The control room was a wreck. Papers scattered, monitors shattered, radios silent, but the main console still hummed faintly, lights blinking weakly. Alvarez muttered, "Can you work it?" I dropped into the chair, hands trembling. "I can try." I flipped switches, adjusted dials, static hissing through the speakers. My voice cracked as I pressed the mic. "This is Officer Daniel Reyes, United States Border Patrol. If anyone can hear this, we need assistance. Outbreak in southern Arizona. Repeat. Outbreak in southern Arizona. Survivors requesting immediate evac." Static answered. Then faintly a voice. "Copy. Outbreak confirmed. Nationwide containment failure." Repeat. Nationwide containment failure. My blood ran cold. Nationwide. The voice continued, broken by static. Safe zones compromised. Phoenix lost. Fall back north. If you can move, move now. The transmission cut out. Alvarez's face went pale. Nationwide. Jesus Christ. Before I could answer, the pounding began. The infected had followed. They slammed against the doors, claws raking, teeth snapping. The walls shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Up the tower. I shouted. We scrambled up the ladder, boots clanging against steel. The infected poured into the building below, their moans rising into a deafening chorus. The tower swayed in the wind, metal groaning. Halfway up, Alvarez slipped, his hands slick with blood. He cursed, gripping tighter. I reached down, grabbing his arm, hauling him up. His sleeve slid back, revealing the bite. My chest tightened. When his eyes met mine, desperate. Back at the camp. I didn't want to tell you. The words hit like a hammer. The infection was already spreading. His face was pale, sweat pouring down, eyes glassy. "We'll deal with it later," I muttered, forcing him upward. We reached the top, collapsing onto the platform. The desert stretched endless. The ghost town below, swarming with infected. Their moans rose into the sky, a chorus of hunger. Alvarez leaned against the railing, chest heaving. "We're screwed." I pressed the mic again, voice breaking. "This is Officer Reyes. If anyone can hear this, we're still alive. But not for long." Static answered. Then silence. The infected clawed at the tower below, climbing, relentless. The steel shook under their weight, bolts groaning, metal bending. Alvarez's eyes met mine, hollow, and resigned. "You know what's coming." I nodded, throat tight. The tower swayed, the infected climbing higher, their moans deafening, the desert stretched endless, the world collapsing. And on that tower, surrounded by death, I realized the truth. There was no rescue. There was no safe zone. There was only survival. The radio tower had given us one truth. The outbreak wasn't local. It was everywhere. Phoenix was gone. Safe zones compromised, and the only orders left were to move north. But north meant crossing miles of desert, crawling with the infected. By dusk, Alvarez and I stumbled onto Highway 77. Our boots dragging, our bodies hollowed out by exhaustion. The road stretched endless cracked asphalt glowing faintly in the moonlight. Ahead, floodlights cut through the dark. A checkpoint. We approached cautiously, rifles raised. The checkpoint was a fortress of sandbags, barbed wire, and armored vehicles. Soldiers patrolled the perimeter, rifles braced, eyes scanning the desert. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe here, finally, we'd find safety. Hold it right there. A soldier barked, rifle trained on us. I raised my hands, voice up in border patrol. Survivors, we need shelter. The soldier's eyes narrowed, then softened. He waved us through. Get inside. You're lucky you made it this far. Inside the checkpoint buzzed with chaos. Radios crackled. Medics tended to the wounded. Soldiers shouted orders. The air wire of sweat, diesel, and blood. Captain Harris strode forward, face grim. Report. I swallowed hard. Outpost Sierra's gone. The convoy is gone. The infected don't stop. Headshots only. Harris's jaw tightened. He nodded once, then turned to his men. Double the barricades. Ammo rationed. No one sleeps tonight. Alvarez leaned close, whispering, this place won't hold. He was right. The checkpoint was strong, but not strong enough. The infected always found a way. We were given CS in a tent, a canteen of water, a few cans of beans. It felt like luxury compared to the desert. But sleep didn't come. The moans carried on the wind, faint but growing. By midnight, the first wave hit. The infected poured from the desert, sprinting across the sand, their moans rising into a chorus. Floodlights lit their pale faces, their glowing eyes, their twisted mouths. Contact, a soldier shouted. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes lighting the night. The infected slammed against the barricades, clawing at sandbags, climbing over barbed wire. Bullets tore through them, bodies collapsing, but more surged forward, relentless. I fired from the wall, rifle braced, sighting down the barrel. One head shot, then another. Each shot a desperate attempt to hold the tide. Casings clattered, smoke filled the air, the stench of blood and gunpowder thick. The barricades groaned under the assault, sandbags spilling, wires snapping. The infected climbed over the dead, clawing their way upward. Hold the line, Harris roared. But the line was breaking. A Humvee exploded. Fireball lighting the night. The blast hurled bodies into the air. Soldiers screaming, flames consuming everything. The infected didn't flinch. They ran through the fire, their skin blistering, their mouths still open in hunger. The checkpoint dissolved into chaos. Soldiers fired wildly, some retreating, others dragged down. The air was thick with screams, gunfire, and the roar of the infected. Alvarez swung his crowbar, skulls cracking, blood spraying. I fired until my rifle clicked empty, then drew my sidearm. My hands shook, sweat stinging my eyes. The barricades collapsed. The infected poured through, flooding the checkpoint like water through a broken dam. Fall back. Harris shouted. We retreated towards the command tent, boots pounding, rifles blazing, the infected swarmed, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. Inside, radios crackled with static. Safe zones lost, reinforcements not coming. Repeat, not coming. Harris slammed his fist against the table, eyes wild. We're on our own. The words hit like a hammer. The infected slammed against the tent, claws raking, teeth snapping. The canvas tore, pale faces pushing through. Soldiers screamed, rifles blazing, but the line was gone. Alvarez grabbed my arm, eyes wide. We have to move. We fought our way out. Boots slipping on blood, rifles blazing. The checkpoint burned around us. Flames lighting the night. Smoke choking the air. The infected swarmed. Their moans rising into a deafening chorus. We stumbled onto the highway. The desert stretching endless before us. Behind. The checkpoint collapsed. Fire consuming everything. The screams faded, replaced by the moans of the infected feasting. Alvarez spat blood. Crowbar slick in his hand. Another line gone. I nodded, throat tight. There's always another line until there isn't. The desert stretched endless. The night pressing close. The checkpoint was gone. The soldiers were gone. The border was gone. And we were alone again. The highway narrowed as we pushed north. The desert giving way to the black ribbon of asphalt that led towards the Colorado River. The night was heavy. The air thick with smoke from burning checkpoints behind us. Every mile felt stolen. Every breath borrowed. Alvarez limped beside me. Crowbar dragging, sweat pouring down his face. His sleeve was rolled down tight, hiding the bite he thought I hadn't noticed. I said nothing. Survival demanded silence. Ahead, the bridge rose like a skeleton of steel and concrete. Its span stretching across the dark water. Cars clogged the lanes, frozen in place from that final moment of panic. Doors hung open, belongings scattered, bodies slumped in seats. The air was thick with gasoline and rot. We slowed, rifles raised, boots crunching on broken glass. The silence pressed hard, broken only by the creak of metal and the whisper of wind through shattered windows. Then the moan came. Low, guttural, rising from the wreckage. Figures stirred inside the cars, pale faces turning toward us. One by one, they emerged, crawling from seats, staggering from trunks, clawing their way over hoods. Their eyes glowed in the moonlight, mouths open in hunger. Contact, I muttered. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes lighting the bridge. The infected surged forward, climbing over cars, sprinting along the lanes. We fired, bullets tearing through skulls, bodies collapsing, but more kept coming. Their moans rose into a chorus, echoing across the steel. Move! I shouted. We pushed forward, weaving through wreckage, firing as we ran. The bridge shook under the weight of the swarm. Metal groaning, concrete cracking. The infected poured from every direction, clawing at doors, slamming against windows, sprinting along the guard rails. Alvarez swung his crowbar, skulls cracking, blood spraying. I reloaded, heart hammering, sweat stinging my eyes. The swarm pressed closer, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. We reached the center of the bridge, surrounded on all sides. The infected closed in, their pale faces twisted, jaws snapping. Then the explosion came. A thunderous roar split the night. Fire erupting at the far end of the bridge. The shockwave knocked us to the ground. Heat washing over us. Cars flipped. Concrete shattered. Bodies hurled into the air. The bridge shook violently. Steel screaming. Chunks of asphalt collapsing into the river below. I scrambled to my feet, ears ringing, flames consumed the wreckage. Smoke billowing into the sky. The infected burned, their screams rising above the roar. But the blast had done more than kill them. It had crippled the bridge. Cracked spiderweb across the concrete. Steel cables snapped, whipping through the air. The span tilted, groaning under its own weight. We have to move, I shouted. We sprinted, boots pounding, lungs burning. Behind us, the bridge collapsed. Sections plunging into the river with a deafening crash. Water erupted, swallowing cars, bodies fire. The sound was apocalyptic. The sight unforgettable. We ran until our legs gave out, collapsing on the far side. The bridge behind us was gone. Nothing but fire and smoke rising from the river. The infected that had chased us were gone, too. Swallowed by the collapse. For a moment, silence returned. Alvarez lay on his back, chest heaving, crowbar still clutched in his hand. I stood staring at the ruins, heart pounding. The bridge had been our way north. Now it was gone. "We're cut off," Alvarez muttered, voice flat, hollow. I nodded, jaw clenched. "Then we find another way." The river stretched wide and dark, its surface reflecting the flames. The current was strong, debris swirling in the water. Crossing it would be suicide. But staying here was worse. Alvarez whispered, "We're running out of options." He was right. Every mile north was harder than the last. Every step cost more than we had left to give. And yet, we couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying. I turned from the ruins, forcing my legs to move. "We keep going. There's always another way." The moans rose again, faint, but growing. The infected had reached the far bank. Their pale faces stared across the water, mouths open, eyes blank. They couldn't cross. Not yet. But they would find a way. They always did. The line was gone. The bridge was gone. And the world was falling with it. The bridge was gone, swallowed by fire and water. Smoke curled into the dawn sky, the smell of burning steel and gasoline clinging to the air. Alvarez and I stood at the river's edge, staring at the dark current rushing below. The Colorado stretched wide, swollen with debris, branches, wreckage, even bodies drifting in the current. It wasn't a river anymore. It was a grave. Alvarez cursed under his breath, gripping his crowbar. "We can't cross that. It'll kill us before they do." I scanned the shoreline, heart pounding. The moans were already rising behind us, faint, but growing. The infected were relentless, drawn by the noise, the fire, the scent of blood. They would find us. "We don't have a choice," I said. "We build something, anything. We cross now or we die here." We scavenged quickly, hands trembling, sweat dripping down our faces. The bank was littered with wreckage, abandoned rafts, half-deflated inner tubes, scraps of wood. Desperation clawed at me. Alvarez lashed planks together with rope. I patched holes with duct tape. It was crude, fragile, but it floated barely. The moans grew louder. Shadows moved on the ridge. Pale faces catching the light. The infected were coming. "Go!" I shouted. We shoved the raft into the water, the current seizing it instantly. We climbed aboard, the wood groaning under our weight. The river pulled us downstream, spinning us, dragging us towards the center. The water was ice cold, soaking through boots and uniforms. My hands gripped the edges, knuckles white. Alvarez paddled with his crowbar, I with a broken board. The raft lurched, tilted, nearly capsized. Then the bodies surfaced. They floated in the current, pale and bloated, eyes clouded, mouths open. At first they drifted lifelessly. Then one twitched. Its hand clawed at the raft, teeth snapping, another stirred, then another. The river was alive with them. "Keep them off!" I shouted. I swung my rifle like a club, smashing skulls, shoving bodies back into the current. Alvarez stabbed with his crowbar. Martinez's absence a ghost between us. The raft rocked violently, water sloshing over the sides. One lunged, teeth sinking into Alvarez's boot. He screamed, kicking, blood spraying. I fired point blank, the shot deafening, the body tumbling into the current. Alvarez gasped, clutching his leg, eyes wide with terror. "Not bitten," he panted. "Just scratched. Just scratched." The raft spun, slammed against debris. A car door bobbed in the current, smashing into us, nearly flipping us. We clung to the planks. Water rising. The raft breaking apart. "Swim," I shouted. We plunged into the river, the current seizing us. The cold stole my breath, dragged me under. I kicked, fought, surfaced, gasping. The current pulled me downstream, debris smashing against me. I clawed toward the far bank, lungs burning, arms trembling. Alvarez surfaced beside me, coughing, eyes wide with panic. "Help," he screamed, thrashing. I grabbed his arm, pulling, kicking, dragging us both toward shore. The bank loomed closer, mud slick, branches clawing at us. I shoved Alvarez upward, his hands clawing at the dirt. He scrambled, pulling himself onto solid ground. I followed, collapsing onto the bank, chest heaving, lungs on fire. But Alvarez wasn't moving. I turned, heart pounding. He lay on his back, chest heaving, face pale, his boot was shredded, blood soaking through, and his eyes met mine, desperate, pleading. "It's bad," he whispered. I shook my head, jaw clenched. "We'll fix it." But we both knew the truth. The infection was already spreading. Silence pressed in, broken only by the roar of the river. My chest tightened, grief clawing at me. Another one gone, another name added to the list. Alvarez's voice cracked. "Don't let me turn." The words hit like a hammer. My throat closed, my hands trembling. I couldn't answer. The moans rose again, faint, but growing. The infected had reached the far bank. Their pale faces stared across the water, mouths open, eyes blank. They couldn't cross. Not yet. But they would find a way. They always did. I rose, legs trembling, rifle heavy in my hands. The river was behind us, the infected across it, the world collapsing around us. We had survived the crossing, but survival was only temporary. The river had nearly killed us, but somehow we crawled out alive. My lungs still burned from the water. My arms ached from dragging Alvarez onto the bank. His leg was shredded, blood soaking through his boot, but he forced himself upright, leaning on his crowbar like a crutch. We didn't speak. Words felt useless now. The desert stretched endless before us, but in the distance, half hidden by mosquite and rock, I saw it. A squat adobe building, windows boarded, roof sagging. A safe house. Border Patrol used them as way stations stocked with supplies for long patrols. If it hadn't been overrun, it might be the only thing keeping us alive. We staggered toward it. Every step a battle. The sun was sinking, shadows stretching long across the sand. The silence pressed in, broken only by the rasp of our breathing and the faint moans carried on the wind. The door was locked, but the wood was brittle. I slammed my shoulder against it, the frame splintering. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust. The safe house was small. One room, a cot, a table, shelves lined with canned food and water jugs. Supplies. Real supplies. Alvarez collapsed onto the cot, chest heaving. His face was pale, sweat pouring down, eyes glassy. The infection was spreading. I forced myself not to look at his leg, not to think about what was coming. I searched quickly, hands trembling. A first aid kit, a box of ammo, a shotgun leaning against the wall. It felt like treasure. I loaded the shotgun, the sound echoing in the silence. For a moment, hope flickered. We barricaded the door with shelves, nailed boards across the windows. The safe house became a fortress, fragile but ours. Outside, the desert grew dark, the wind howling, the moans rising. Alvarez lay on the cot, eyes half closed, his voice was weak, cracked. "Feels like we're safe." I forced a smile for now. But I knew better. Safety was an illusion. The night dragged on. Every sound amplified. The wind rattled the boards. The walls creaked. The silence pressed in. I sat by the door, shotgun across my lap, eyes fixed on the shadows. My mind replayed everything. The convoy, the checkpoint, the bridge. Every line we tried to hold had fallen. Every promise of safety had turned to ash. Near midnight, the pounding began at first faint. A single thud against the wall, then another, then dozens. The infected had found us. The walls shook under the assault, dust raining from the ceiling. Their moans rose into a chorus, echoing through the night. The boards rattled, nails popping, wood splintering. Alvarez stirred, eyes wide. They're here. I braced the shotgun, heart hammering. The door shook, hinges groaning, claws rat against the wood, teeth snapping, fists slamming. The safe house trembled, the walls bowing inward. Hold on, I muttered, though I wasn't sure who I was talking to, him or myself. The pounding grew louder, the barricades splintering, shadows moved outside the windows, pale faces pressing against the cracks. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, mouths open in hunger. Alvarez gripped his crowbar, knuckles white, his voice cracked. We can't hold this. He was right. The safe house was a coffin. The first board snapped, claws tearing through. Her hand reached in, fingers clawing at the air. I fired, the shotgun blast deafening, the hand exploding in a spray of blood. The moans grew louder, the pounding more frenzied. The walls shook. The roof groaned. The safe house collapsing under the assault. Alvarez's eyes met mine hollow and resigned. We're not getting out of this. I reloaded, hands trembling, sweat dripping down my face. My chest tightened, grief clawing at me. Another line was breaking. Another promise of safety turning to ash. The pounding grew louder, the boards splintering, the walls shaking, the infected roared, their moans rising into a deafening chorus. And in that moment, I realized the truth. There were no safe houses. There was no safety. There was only survival. The safe house walls shook under the pounding. Boards splintered, nails popped, and the moans outside rose into a deafening chorus. Every second felt like the last. I braced the shotgun, sweat dripping into my eyes, heart hammering. Alvarez lay on the cot, pale and trembling, his leg blackened from the infection. He gripped his crowbar weakly, eyes glassy. Then Martinez moved. He'd been quiet since the convoy, his sleeve always rolled down, his face always turned away. Now in the flickering lantern light, I saw the truth. His arm was swollen, veins black, sweat pouring down his face. The bite he'd hidden was worse than Alvarez's. You knew, I whispered. Martinez's eyes darted wild. I thought I could fight it. I thought I could beat it. Alvarez coughed, voice weak. You doomed us. The pounding grew louder, the boards cracking. Martinez's breathing quickened. Panic overtaking reason. He grabbed his rifle, eyes wide. We can't stay here. We have to run now. I shook my head. We can't outrun them. We hold. But Martinez wasn't listening. His fear had curdled into something worse. Desperation. He shoved the barricade aside, ripping boards from the door. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. They'll tear this place apart, he screamed. I'm not dying in here. The door burst open, the infected surging through. Pale faces, glowing eyes, mouths open in hunger. They poured into the safe house, clawing, snapping, moaning. Martinez fired wildly, bullets tearing through walls, missing more than they hit. His panic was a beacon, drawing them in. Alvarez roared, swinging his crowbar, skulls cracking, blood spraying. I fired the shotgun. The blast deafening, bodies collapsing, but the line was broken. The infected swarmed, clawing through the breach, flooding the room. Martinez stumbled back, eyes wide, rifle empty. One lunged, teeth sinking into his throat. Blood sprayed, his scream cut short. He clawed at the creature, but more swarmed him, dragging him down. His betrayal ended in screams and blood. Alvarez swung his crowbar, teeth gritted, sweat pouring down his face. We have to move. We fought our way towards the back, boots slipping on blood, rifles blazing. The infected swarmed, their moans deafening, their bodies relentless. The safe house collapsed around us, walls splintering, roof sagging. We burst through the back door, stumbling into the desert night. The air was cold, the stars burning above, the moans echoing behind us, the safe house burned, flames consuming the walls, smoke rising into the sky. Alvarez collapsed, chest heaving, face pale. His leg was worse, the infection spreading fast. He gripped my arm, eyes desperate. "Don't let me turn." My throat tightened, grief clawing at me. "Don't talk like that." But he knew, and so did I. The moans grew louder, the infected pouring from the burning safe house, their pale faces glowing in the firelight. They staggered into the desert, relentless, unstoppable. I reloaded, hands trembling, sweat dripping down my face. My chest tightened, my mind replaying Martinez's betrayal the way he doomed us all. Alvarez's voice cracked. "Promise me." I couldn't answer. My throat closed. My hands shook. The infected closed in. Their moans rising into a chorus. The desert stretched endless. The night pressing close. The safe house was gone. Martinez was gone. And Alvarez was slipping away. And I realized the truth. The dead weren't the only danger. The living were worse. The safe house was gone. Martinez was gone. And Alvarez was slipping away. His breaths came shallow, his skin clammy, his eyes glassy with fever. The infection was winning. I dragged him through the desert night, every step a battle, until we stumbled upon a crumbling ranger station perched on a rocky rise. Inside the air was stale, thick with dust and old paper. A radio console sat against the wall, its dials cracked. Its wires frayed. But when I flipped the switch, a faint hum answered. The generator still had life. Alvarez collapsed into a chair. Crowbar slipping from his hand. His voice was weak, cracked. "This is it, isn't it?" I forced myself to focus, adjusting dials, static hissing through the speakers. "Not yet. We can still warn them." He laughed bitterly, a sound that turned into a cough. "Warn who? There's no one left." I pressed the mic, my voice trembling. "This is Officer Daniel Reyes, United States Border Patrol. If anyone can hear this, the outbreak has reached Arizona. The border is gone. The checkpoints are gone. The safe houses are gone. If you're out there, you're not alone. But you need to run. Don't stop. Don't trust the fences. Don't trust the walls. They all fall." Static answered. Then faint voices broken by distance. "Copy. Survivors in Flagstaff holding as long as we can." Another voice cut in desperate. "Phoenix lost. Tucson burning." Then silence. Alvarez's head lolled back, his eyes half closed. "You think anyone's listening?" I swallowed hard, throat tight. "They have to be." The pounding began at first faint. A single thud against the wall, then another, then dozens. The infected had found us. Their moans rose into a chorus, echoing through the night. The walls shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Alvarez stirred, eyes wide with fear. His voice cracked. "Don't let me turn." My chest tightened, grief clawing at me. I gripped his hand, my throat closing. "I promise." The barricades rattled, claws raking, teeth snapping. The infected slammed against the doors, their hunger relentless. The radio crackled, static hissing. I pressed the mic again, voice breaking. "If you can hear this, I don't know how much time we have. They're everywhere, and they don't stop. Headshot only. If you're bitten, it's over. Don't hide it. Don't lie. It'll kill everyone around you." The pounding grew louder, the walls trembling. Alvarez's breathing slowed, his eyes glassy. He gripped my arm weakly, whispering, "End it." Tears blurred my vision. My hand shook as I raised the pistol. His eyes met mine, hollow, and resigned. "Do it." The shot echoed through the station, deafening. His body slumped still at last. The moans grew louder, the infected pouring through the windows, clawing at the walls. I pressed the mic one last time, my voice roar. "This is Reyes. If you can hear this, run. Don't stop. Don't look back. Survive." The door splintered. Pale faces flooding the room. Their eyes glowed, their mouths open in hunger. I raised my rifle, heart hammering, sweat dripping down my face. The radio crackled, faint voices overlapping. "We hear you. Hold on. You're not alone." Then the infected were on me. The broadcast cut to static. The broadcast ended in static. My voice, my warning, carried into the void. Whether anyone heard it, I'll never know. The ranger station burned behind me. Flames licking the night sky. Smoke curling into the stars. The infected swarmed inside, their moans drowned by the roar of fire. I staggered into the desert, rifle heavy in my hands, lungs burning, body broken. The desert stretched endless, a sea of ash and silence. The moon hung low, casting silver light across the sand. Every step felt like the last, every breath a battle. My boots dragged, my vision blurred, my body screaming for rest, but I couldn't stop. Stopping meant dying. I thought of Alvarez, his last words echoing in my ears. "Don't let me turn." I thought of Martinez, his betrayal ending in screams. I thought of Jenkins, his prayer cut short. Faces haunted me. Voices followed me. Ghosts walking beside me. I was the last. By dawn, I reached the highway. Cars littered the road, rusted and burned. Their doors hanging open. Belongings were scattered across the asphalt. Suitcases, toys, photographs. Lives abandoned in panic. The silence pressed in, broken only by the whisper of wind through shattered glass. I scavenged what I could. Half a bottle of water, a rusted knife, a map stained with blood. The map showed routes north, safe zones circled in red. But I knew better. Safe zones were lies. Every wall fell. Every line broke. The sun climbed higher. The heat pressing down. My throat was raw. My lips cracked. My body hollowed out by exhaustion. I stumbled into a gas station. Its windows shattered. Shelves stripped bare. The air wire of rot. In the back, I found them. A family. A man, a woman, 2 children. Their bodies slumped against the wall, pale and still. For a moment, I thought they were gone. Then the boy twitched. His eyes snapped open, glowing faintly. His mouth opened in a wet moan. I raised my rifle, hands trembling, my chest tightened, grief clawing at me. I fired. The shot echoed through the station, deafening. The bodies slumped still at last. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. I collapsed behind the counter, chest heaving, tears burning my eyes. My hands shook, my throat closed. I pressed my forehead against the rifle, whispering to no one. Why me? Why am I still here? The radio crackled. At first, faint static hissing, then a voice broken by distance. This is Flagstaff. Survivors holding. Repeat. Survivors holding. My heart hammered. Survivors. Real survivors. The voice continued desperate. If you can hear this, we need help. Supplies low, infected closing in. Anyone out there, please? I gripped the radio, my hands trembling. My voice cracked. This is Reyes. I hear you. I'm alive. Static answered. Then silence. I slammed the radio, frustration boiling. The signal was weak, broken. But it was real. Survivors were out there. I wasn't alone. The moans rose again, faint but growing. Shadows moved outside the station. Pale faces pressing against the glass. The infected had found me. I reloaded, hands steady now. My chest tightened, but not with fear, with resolve. I pressed the mic one last time, my voice steady. This is Reyes. If you can hear this, I'm coming. Hold on. The glass shattered, the infected pouring in. Pale faces, glowing eyes, mouths open in hunger. Their moans rose into a chorus echoing through the desert. I raised my rifle, heart hammering, sweat dripping down my face. The desert burned with fire and ash. The world had fallen, but I was still here. And I wasn't done yet. The broadcast carried north, reaching ears in Flagstaff, in Yuma, in scattered camps hidden in the desert. Survivors listened, their faces lit by dying fires, their eyes wide with hope. Some whispered his name, others clutched their weapons tighter. The message was clear. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams.